started, and I think people will probably filter in from there. But
Sounds
we're up
good.
to about 50 people right now. So we have with us today, this is an issue that many of you have reached out to me to talk about and ask questions about. So we thought we'd bring in what we hear as the four leading expert in the country on this issue. So Durk Johnson is with us today. He is the executive director of the Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professionals. He has been cleaning up other people's messes since 2001. He has experience in housekeeping and back of operations for hotel companies, large vacation rental companies, and he can talk a little bit more about what he has seen. But he's today to talk about what clients are going to be expecting, hopefully this summer, as hopefully we get things under control and we start having guests for the July and August of this year. And so as they're doing that, as you're talking to your owners about what they can expect and what is going to need to be done, and then also how to reassure the guests that everything's going to be clean. And then also really the big thing is how you work with your cleaners and your, because almost everyone in our marketplace hires outside cleaning companies. And some of you guys, for a lot of properties, because of smallness of the size of our small cleaning companies, you're hiring 4, 5, 6 different cleaning companies you're working with on a weekly basis. So how you're keeping standards up throughout all of those. I think Durk's going to touch on a lot of that, and he's going to, but he's really here to take a lot of your questions as well. So yeah. Durk, I'll turn it over to you and let you take off with a couple of things.
Excellent. Thank you. To all of you, welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. I'm looking forward to hearing your conversation and your questions as we start to go through this. And so before we jump into the topic at hand, I want to establish a definition for us because this serves as a framework for everything that we're going to talk about. As you talk with your contract cleaners, as you talk with your owners, as you talk with your employees, it's really important to understand the difference between sanitization and disinfection. So sanitization is where I take on a surface, I reduce the number of microbes, and I reduce the chance of getting sick. Whereas from a disinfection standpoint, the disinfectant has been tested against a specific microbe or virus, and it has to sit or dwell on the surface for a specific period of time, and then it kills the virus or the microbe. And so all of the products that you see on the EPA site that say they test or they kill COVID 2019 have been tested against that particular virus, that coronavirus. And so as you start to look at your products, as you start to look at your communication that you have with your guests and your owners, you need to understand this difference, because I can disinfect hard surfaces, so countertops, hardwood floors, tile floors, things of that nature, whereas I can only sanitize soft goods, so couches, throw pillows, things of that nature. And so as you start to work with your contract cleaners and as you sit and meet with them from one business owner to another, I would be asking them, what products are you using to disinfect? How do they sit on the list produced by the EPA? And then what are you using to sanitize? And how does that fit on the list that has been provided? And so we want to make sure that this conversation is taking place from one business owner to another. The other thing that I would encourage you to think about is you should have a standard that outlines what happens in a departure clean, and then you should have a standard of what happens in a deep clean. And so now as we start to look at the cleans are going to happen in this COVID 2019 world, we want to be thinking deep clean. We're going to take some of those items out of our deep clean standards and move those into our departure clean standards because we need to allocate more time, simply because we have a great number of high touch surfaces that we have to work with and make sure are clean. And some of those are light switches, lamp thumb turns, remote controls for the TV. This one is really tough because you've got Cheeto fingers or whatever, or, you've got, buffalo wings that you've been eating, you have barbecue sauce all stuck inside the numbers and the buttons. And so you have to make sure that these are really clean. This is a culture that I grew from a remote control in a short-term rental where I was staying. And so you can see how dirty and nasty the remote controls are. So making sure that we are able to clean, sanitize, and disinfect the remote controls as best we can is imperative. Again, cabinet knobs, drawer handles, interior knobs, exterior door handles, the sliding glass doors. We start looking at elevator buttons if you have those in your inventory. The lamp pull chains in the middle of the room have to be sanitized and disinfected. TV buttons, the thermostats, the locking mechanism on windows, you've got blinds, you have banisters, all of these different areas need to be cleaned and sanitized and disinfected. And so this is why it's going to take more time. So again, I come back to my statement earlier. As you start to look at your deep clean items and as you look at your properties, I would encourage you to sit down and meet with your cleaning contractors and say, okay, in this COVID 2019 era that we're working with, I'm a business owner, you're a business owner. What are we going to do? Tell me about your cleaning products. How much more time is this going to take? What are we doing? Because they're going to want to charge you more because of more time, which means then based on your business decisions and your business needs, you're going to have to look at and see, how am I going to recoup this money? Does that mean I can charge the guest? Does it mean I can charge the owner? Does that mean it comes out of my profit? And so you have to start looking at all of these different things as you start to go through that. And then soft goods, as I mentioned earlier, can only be sanitized. And so we want to make sure that the products that they're using reduce the number of microbes or viruses on the surface. Now, the good news is that the COVID 2019 is a coronavirus, so it's similar to influenza, it's similar to the common cold. And so there are lots of products out there that do attack that virus. And so being able to use those products on the soft goods, if you can, to reduce the number that's there. And so Ryan or Whitney, if there's a question as we go through this, I'm more than happy to entertain questions as we go, as opposed to me being a talking head. Because
we are monitoring the chat. If people would put the questions in the chat for right now, and then at the end we can entertain sound questions as well.
All right, very good. So we'll just continue on here then. So then just a review of the basics as you start to look at your cleaning procedures. And that would be, there's a process or a methodology called follow the wall. And when I follow the wall, it ensures that I see and touch everything in the property. And so you can see here the red line as it goes through the entire property here, how I see behind all the doors, I see inside all the cabinets, I see under all the beds and so forth. And so following this pattern allows me to see and touch everything that I'm going to need to do and see and touch. Another thing that's going to be needed is, I'm not sure where those red lines came from. Another thing is going to be the personal protective equipment. And so you will need to make sure that based on the product that you may be using for your personal staff or for the contract cleaners, that they have the correct personal protective equipment. Now, masks are a big deal because when they go in to clean, they're going to have to assume that someone inside had COVID 2019. So they need to wear a mask to protect themselves as they walk in, so they're not inhaling what's nebulized in the air. They need to open windows, turn fans on to get the air moving, to get those nebulized particles down to the ground. We want to make sure that we're using the correct gloves, so we're not touching so as we're touching surfaces, that our hands are protected. And again, we always want to make sure that we're washing our hands. And so the correct protective equipment can be found on section 8 in the safety data sheet. And then, so what products are effective? Again, we want to think safety first. So there are some people out there who think that they need to be mixing their own products. And so I'm not an advocate of mixing products at all. We should be purchasing products from a local janitorial supply company in a concentrate form because, you know, again, basic chemistry tells us that if I mix bleach and ammonia, I'm going to get chlorine gas. And so in a professional environment, I need to be providing or the contract cleaners need to be using products with proper labels and proper safety data sheets. Per OSHA regulation and per OSHA compliance, every bottle that a cleaner uses must have an appropriate label of what's inside. And if OSHA and writing on the bottle with a Sharpie is not an appropriate label. And so you want to make sure that you get the labels from the janitorial supply company or the people you're buying the products from. And from a cost standpoint, buying products in a concentrate greatly reduces your cost. So what products are effective? Well, the EPA has a list, and the list has been changing and evolving over time. And so go to epa.gov, and there's that list there so you can look and see. Now, this is where I would encourage you to have a good relationship with a local janitorial supply company because they are going to know what they have coming in and what they have access to. This way you are able to make sure you have the product on hand to take care of the COVID 2019. So when you're buying a concentrate, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to the dilution ratios. Do not change the dilution ratios. If it says 3-to-1, 5-to-1, 6-to-1, that's what you do. Do not allow a cleaner or someone to say, you know what, I think I need a little extra stronger product today, so I'm going to add a little more concentrate to it to make it stronger. No, that changes the dilution ratio. It changes how it works. And now the safety data sheet you have on file is no longer accurate. So always follow the dilution ratios that are provided. And then the other thing you always want to do is based on your list of products, you want to make sure that you know what microbes they kill, what their limitations are, and how long it takes for them to kill the product or the viruses that we're working with. So now let's talk about laundry for a moment.
Sure. We got a question coming in. You talked about earlier.
Yes.
But you talked about the amount of time for turnover. How long would you suggest extending the amount of time between arrival and departure to allow for the cleaning to happen, but also for everything to be sitting? Is there a certain amount of time you're suggesting?
Well, so let's think about this for just a moment, and let's think out loud. So as someone is looking at their property and they're looking at all of the high touch surfaces now that they have to work with and clean. So if you're looking for a percentage, I would say anywhere from 10 to 20% in rough terms you could look at. But again, this is where you need to sit down and meet with your cleaning contractor and say, based on the properties you're assigned, this is what I need done. How are we going to come to a business agreement as to how long this should take? We have to incorporate the people that we're working with in this decision. Because they may know something about the property from a cleaning standpoint that you're not aware of. And again, you're bringing information for your guests and owners and what their concerns are that they're not aware of. And so having this two-way dialogue is so important to be able to establish that new clean time. The other way,
and then a couple others that you touched on too is, I think a lot of people use traditional house cleaners. How well versed do you think they may be in this, or is it more the professional cleaning route, office type cleaning, or is there really a difference in that vein for who you're going for to handle these issues.
So
Is that you
here's
understand that? Okay.
so here's how I look at that. Someone that's cleaning for you as a cleaner, in my mind, is a professional cleaner because you are compensating them for their services they're providing. So they're a professional cleaner, even if they do private homes on the side, or you're the side, or the cleans they do for you're the side gig. They are a professional cleaner, and so as a professional cleaner, they are expected to work with professional products and to have and act in a professional way. And so how I do a private clean that someone's living in, a private residence, is a little different. Okay, it's very different than how I would do a vacation rental. Is that the question they're asking?
Yeah, that's a good answer. Also, the question came in about if hands are being cleaned with soap and water, you know, these other products are needed for surfaces. Do viruses live different, I guess, on the surfaces than they do on hands and stuff? Or I guess that's a little misconception on what's going on there.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I struggled with the answer for this question when COVID 2019 first started to come around. And the only answer that I found is a letter that was written to the New England Journal of Medicine. And it was done by several people throughout the country, some on the West Coast, some on the East Coast, and then a group of people out of the state of Montana. And they found that the virus, when someone sneezes or coughs, they found that it stayed in the air for quite some time. They found that it lived, okay, I got to remember here. They found that it lived on cardboard for 24 hours, and it lived on stainless steel for 3 days, and plastics for 3 days in a viable form. Now, again, the longer it was on that time frame, from 0 hour to 3 days, by the time you get to 3 days, the amount of the quantity of the virus is greatly decreased. And so that's why I suggest when somebody walks in to clean after someone is departed, the assumption is they had COVID 2019 and they were sneezing and coughing. So the cleaner needs to have a mask to protect them from inhaling the particulates. That's why I suggest opening the windows and turning on fans, ceiling fans, to get the air moving, to get the particulates down to the ground. And then that's why it's important to wear gloves, because the gloves not only protect me from the products that I'm using, but then they also, any nasty viruses, whether they're, staph, MRSA, E. coli, salmonella, all the other microbes that a housekeeper is encountering will reside on the outside of the glove. And then as I take the gloves off, and I have to take gloves off appropriately to make sure I don't get any contamination on my wrist or anything from me, because if I've got a glove on my right hand and I'm going to take the glove off my left hand, I don't stick it in here and then try to take it off, because now any microbes on the glove are now on my hand. The intent of the PPE is to protect me, my skin, from those microbes. And so making sure that I'm wearing gloves, and then I take them off appropriately, and then I dispose of them appropriately. And that would be true of masks and any other PPE that I'm using to protect my skin and to protect me. Does that help?
I believe that answered it. And I will message Ryan, but I believe that answered it well.
Yeah. Okay. So again, right. So I'm going to wash my gloves after I I'm going to wash my hands after I take my gloves off. Again, I'm all about the health and safety of my cleaners, and especially with what we know, washing hands should just be second nature, and we should be washing our hands frequently throughout the day, to make sure that we're able to wash the virus and get it off our hands.
A couple of good questions come in on whether these, with the airborne virus coming in, is there really any way to really guarantee that there's not the virus in the home when someone gets there? And then also, if you're using gloves to clean and you touch the virus and then you start cleaning elsewhere in the house, are you spreading the virus further around the house?
All right, so let's answer the second part of that question first. So this is why the product you use is so imperative, so critical, super important, because the product you're using needs to kill the virus. And again, the EPA has that list of products they've tested against COVID 2019, and depending on the product, there are dwell times of 30 seconds to 10 minutes. And so as I'm spraying my product, I can come down and let it dwell on that, and then as I go from property to from surface to surface in the property, then I'm making sure that it's killed because of the product that I'm using. Okay, so that's part B to the question. Now repeat part A once more for me, please.
Part A was about the airborne stuff. If it's in the airborne, how do we really know that it's out of the house or we've done it properly?
Okay, so we got to go back to my definitions at the beginning. So there's I can sanitize, I can disinfect, and then there's a third one which I did not talk about, which is sterilize. So I can't sterilize a property because that requires heat, that requires pressure, that requires everything. So even a cleaner who comes through and cleans everything and does everything they can to get all of the salmonella and the E. coli and MRSA and staph and all of that out of the house, when the housekeeper departs, there is still going to be MRSA and staph and those things in the house because those exist naturally in the environment. And so to stamp and say this home is totally and 100% free of COVID 2019, I'm not sure you can say. What you can do is you can sanitize and you can disinfect. And by sanitizing all the surfaces that you can't disinfect, you greatly reduce the number of microbes that you have and the ability of them to survive. And so that's why it's real important you have a really good relationship with your janitorial supply company, that you have a product you can spray all of your soft goods with to make sure that you are killing and reducing the viability of the COVID 2019 virus on those surfaces. Does that make sense?
That does. Let's get into laundry, and we'll take some more questions as we go along.
Okay. All right. Very good. So laundry. So here we go. So laundry. If you are using this type of machine to wash with, then you need to know their limitations. You need to make sure that your cleaning staff are not overloading, and you need to make sure that they are using the appropriate product inside the washer. And then when it goes into the dryer, you want to dry it on the highest setting that the linen will allow. A sanitized setting would be the ideal setting. Now, again, a sanitized setting in a dryer is going to add some time. So now we come back to our time conversation that we looked at earlier. If, however, you're using a commercial facility or you're sending it out to a third party, then they have all sorts of ways to go through and to help you to disinfect and to kill and sanitize the laundry that is coming out of those machines, because they have time, temperature, mechanical action, and chemistry to work with all of these things that go with that. And so the other thing to consider are bedspreads. I know of a couple of property management companies that are taking the bedspreads off the beds and they are laundering the blankets. So they're going, so let me back up for just a second and explain this differently. So they're going to take the owner's comforter or bedspread off the bed and put that in a closet. And then on the bed, there'll be a fitted sheet, a flat sheet, and then they're going to put a blanket over the top and then tuck that in. And that's what's going to be on there. Now, granted, it's not going to be the super nice and super aesthetics that you would have otherwise from the comforter, but it shows the guest that you are making every effort to clean any and all surfaces that they're going to come in contact with. Now, again, I don't know if that's something you can do or something Your owners may have multiple bedspreads, so you can have those laundered. Again, this is something you need to start thinking about from a business standpoint is, I'm a guest walking in. How am I going to build trust that this guest, when they're walking in, that they have the confidence in me that I have cleaned and sanitized and disinfected every surface that I can. I mean, you think about the bedspreads as a whole, even before this. I mean, if you were to take a black light and look at multiple bedspreads, some of them would light up like a Christmas tree. And so we always want to make sure that we are providing especially in this particular environment, that we are providing a safe environment and that we are able to clean these items as we go forward.
So Durk, in this, in our world, there are some companies that, do linen charges added on, things like that encourage people to bring their own versus the ones that provide it. Is there maybe a move in this environment to lean more toward those bringing their own linens now in this environment so that they feel more comfortable? Or is there any kind of difference there?
The movement now is to go like what the hotels are doing with a sheet duvet. So for me, in my perfect world, the bed would look like this. I would have a fitted sheet and then a sheet duvet, and then I would have a blanket inside the sheet duvet. And then every time there's a turn, I would take the fitted sheet off. I would take the sheet duvet off, take the blanket out. I would put the blanket in a new sheet duvet, and then that's what I would continue. And then that's what I would do on every turn. That's me in my ideal world. Now, there are lots of other variations of that can be done. You can do the option I described earlier. You can do triple sheeting. You can certainly encourage guests to bring their own linen or to bring their own bedspreads if they choose to. There's all sorts of things that you could do from that perspective. But to your question, as far as what I'm seeing an opportunity here for those that provide linen to get rid of the bedspreads and comforters altogether and just go with a sheet duvet. So that way I can make sure everything is clean that the guest is going to be staying in. Because think about it. When people come to stay in a lodging establishment, they're really after two things. One, they're after safety and security. And two, they are after a good night's rest. And so if I have a good mattress and you think about a good night's rest, what's the closest thing to the guest? It's your sheets and your pillowcases. And so I would want to make sure those are cleaned and those are fresh and those are ready for that. And I would get rid of if I had my wish, I would get rid of bedspreads and comforters altogether. Sorry, I got on my soapbox. I'll try to get off.
That's all right. Keep going. You're doing great.
Well, they're nasty. They're nasty. Part of my training and what I do is I go around and do my stuff is my guilty pleasure is my black light. I love to take cleaners into a bathroom that's been cleaned and say, hey, let's look and see what's here. Or we go into a bedroom. We look at the carpet. We look at the bedspreads. We look at the pillows up in the closet. And it's amazing what lights up. And I'm like going, see, we're responsible to clean this. We need to get it clean. So how are we going to do that?
While you're on beds, a couple questions came up about, does it bring more problems if guests are bringing their own linens in? And also about mattress pads. Do mattress pads need to be changed and washed for every turnover?
Let's see here. Let's think about that for just a second. So help me better understand the implications of a guest bringing their own thing, as in bringing a virus in from the outside?
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah.
So if they're bringing the virus in from the outside, it's not going to be any different than if they were sneezing or coughing to begin with anyway.
Okay.
You're still going to have the virus there. And then tell me part B again.
Mattress pad covers.
Mattress pad covers. So if you have the ability to wash them, that's great. However, I'm looking. So we're gonna have to pay attention here. And you think about. So let's look at pillows before we look at mattress protectors. So on a pillow, you're going to have the pillowcase, the pillow protector, and then the pillow. And so if you think about someone who drools, nobody ever does that in their sleep, right? Nobody. So if you got a drooler, it's going to go through the pillowcase, the pillow protector, and into the pillow. So if you have a drooler, then that brings up a different question. So this is why your housekeepers have to pay, your cleaners have to pay attention to what's going on. If someone has drooled, then the pillow needs to be addressed, as well as the pillow protector and the pillowcase. However, if it's just a normal pillow, then you could simply take the pillowcase off, and if they look at the pillow protector and they see it needs to be addressed, they could take it off and then put those new items back on. Same thing is true with the mattress pad. If they're looking at the mattress pad and they see it's wet and they see these other things, then replace it. Replace it as in clean it, put a new one on, and then have some sort of rotation that way. Is what I would suggest. And so looking at having your cleaners take a moment and pause to look and see what they're doing on the bed, again, because people are spending 8 hours in a bed, or longer, depending on if they're sleeping in or what they're trying to do. So we want to make sure that that we're cleaning that stuff as best we can, and that we're paying attention to it. I will tell you this, going back to the question earlier, how long does COVID 2019 live on soft goods? I don't have an answer for you yet. In theory, it would not have a long life, because it would dry, the product, the material would cause it to dry and then go away. But I don't have an answer for you on that. So that's why we have to pay super attention to what's going on. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. So, other questions?
Ryan just lost his internet.
Oh, good. That's not good at all.
No, so if you want to move on a little bit, I will touch base on what questions he has not answered yet.
Okay. All right. Very good. So now let's take a look at some tools for cleaners to use. We want to use microfiber rags. Microfiber rags do many things, and you can see here on the left where they have all of these micro grooves. So they actually scrub as you go, versus a cotton fiber or a cotton rag on the right. And so want to use a microfiber rag, because a microfiber can actually grab and hold on to the virus. It scrubs as I go. It does all those things of that nature. And so I want to make sure that all of them are using microfiber rags. Now, to care for microfiber rags means when I wash it, I wash microfiber alone. I do not use fabric softener. And when it goes into the dryer, I do not use a dryer sheet, because fabric softener and dryer sheet have one objective, and that is to take something that is rough and make it feel smooth. And so the roughness of the microfiber, those items will fill in those micro grooves. So we want to make sure that we are able to keep our microfiber there. Now, the other thing would be a pressurized spray bottle. And so if you have, like, you're trying to sanitize soft goods, you can use this pressurized bottle, and you can spray your couches, you can spray your throw pillows, you can spray all your things of that nature. And if you have a disinfectant in the kitchen and you want to spray a lot real quick, this is really a great alternative, rather than just using a trigger sprayer where you pull it and get a tired hand, because you can pump it up and spray this all over the place. And then another item is to look at for dispensing would be an electrostatic spray system. And what this does is, this is in the white bottle there is where you place your product, and then it's battery operated. And then what happens is, as you spray, it positively charges the product coming out. So then it's attracted to the negative product that you're spraying. And so it actually envelops. It's just like if you're a welder and you're going to paint, you electrically charge the metal, and then as you spray the paint, that electrical charge grabs the paint and wraps it all the way around the metal. And so that's what this does from a cleaning standpoint. So now we want to look at, what this does from a guest perspective, what guests are expecting. So simply, cleaning is now front and center. This is an opportunity for your cleaners to shine, to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm a professional cleaner. This is what I do. We also want to understand that there's a lot of fear out there as people are panicking and worried about what their vacation is going to look like. Is this property safe? All those things of that nature. And then how do I make sure my property is free? And so to facilitate that, I am an advocate that everybody should be telling their story. You should right now on your blog, on your Instagram feeds, on your LinkedIn's, in your communication to your guests and owners, talk about what you're doing. Look, videos, written words, photos, whatever the case may be. Tell your story. Talk about what you're doing. If you don't have an answer, tell them. It's super, super important that you're telling and talking about what's taking place so you can gain this trust. Really stay close to your local health officials so they can provide that guidance to you. Pay attention to what's happening at the CDC and the WHO. Okay? You also want to make sure that talk about the additional steps you're taking, right? All of these things start to play into this piece of how you're going to go forward and what you're going to do. So if you're not telling your story, someone else is going to tell it for you with a different storyline and with a different ending than what you would want your story to be. It doesn't take much. It really doesn't. All of us have our digital device. Do a short video, post it. In 3 days, do another short video and post it. If you're interested, look up Twitty on the Outer Banks and look at what they've done for COVID 2019 as they've started to post these different things. It's a great example of telling your story and being able to get your message out there. So with that,
Durk, you there? I think this is a great place where people can use to differentiate themselves versus the owner doing it themselves. Because
absolutely.
I would say that owners doing it themselves, they're not thinking through this stuff.
Yeah, no, right. So as you start to tell your story, if there's a festival in town, go do a video at the festival. If 6 weeks before the festival, go interview the person that's putting the festival on. Talk about interview your contract cleaners. Say, I'm here with Betty Sue today. They're in such and such property, and Betty Sue, how you feeling today? Oh, it's been a good season. I've got these new products that I'm doing. I've got this COVID 2019 that's really changed how I do things, and I've had to adjust, and I'm trying to make the best I can do. And just talk, share. For some reason we just want to pause and not do that. And so be forthright in telling your story. Talk about it. Talk about what you're learning. Talk about what's taking place. Even if it's just once a week where you sit down in front of your computer and you just talk to your owners, to your staff, and to your guests, let them know. I don't know what else to say other than just do it, just so they can understand what you're thinking and what you're seeing.
Most cleaning companies are thinking about this and understanding it, because we have a lot of small and mom and pop ones, that kind of stuff. And where in that world do you think they're thinking about things like this at this standard, at this pace?
So your question to me is, where, as I compare the the VRBO or Airbnb people to the property management companies, where are they? Is that your question?
Cleaning companies. We have a lot of mom and pop cleaning companies. versus, bigger structured groups, that you might find in bigger cities. Obviously we have a shorter season out here, that kind of thing. So do you think a lot of the cleaning companies are going to understand a lot of these things as they approach and talk to their cleaning companies? Or is it going to be a lot of educating from the real estate brokerage side to telling them about these things?
Well, I think it's going to take some education. So again, as part of education and part of training is to find a reference point that they'll understand. And so if your contract cleaners understand Facebook, then you can talk about the storyline on Facebook and how this is important. Again, as a business to a business person is, this storyline is super important to me. You are an integral part of what I'm doing and what my guests are wanting to know about. I need them to meet you. I need them to hear what you're doing differently and what products you're using and why you've chosen to go with this specific product off the CPA list to facilitate this. It may take some coaching, and they may look at you cross-eyed and say, you want to do video of what? Why? So again, a little coaching on their side. Again, this is a business to business relationship. As you succeed in business, they succeed in business. And so that's how I would approach it. And that's how I would sell it to them is, I need you to talk about your cleaning. I need my people to know who you are and to talk about this, even if it's, and so that's how I would proceed. I mean, even if you did an audio recording, kind of like a mini podcast, if you will, just a sound bite of 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, that works too. And so we need to we just have to help our contract cleaners understand, even if they're mom and pop, that they need to be using products. They no longer should they be going down to the store and then mixing a little bit of this and a little bit of that to go clean. Even if they say their great grandmother used it and it killed everything in the house. No, they need to be using a product off that list to ensure that the COVID 2019 virus is dead, and that they are able to facilitate the cleaning that needs to be done. And if they are unwilling to do that, then that puts you as a property manager in a position where now you have to decide, is this cleaner going to continue to clean for me or not? Because now they're putting your guests and owners at risk. Our role is to do everything within our ability to provide a safe and disinfected, sanitized place for people to stay. And if your contract cleaners are unwilling to change products and use products that need to be that way, then a change is what needs to happen. And that's hard. I know that's hard because there's relationships there and they've been with you and they've done all sorts of things for you. And for them to not do this and for you to make that change because of that human element is tough. I know it is.
Or some kind of level cleaning companies strive to get, that's a standard in the industry that people can be looking toward for those that use best practices?
Yeah, so VRHP unveiled yesterday an online course to be a certified vacation rental housekeeper. Today we're unveiling, in fact, excuse me, later today I'm posting that the certified vacation rental inspector certification is available online. And so there is a place for people to go and to learn the best practices and safety to clean a short-term or a vacation rental. So yeah, those standards are there. VRHP has those and is more than happy to share what information we have to help you succeed in that standpoint.
Great. We'll include those out in the links follow up with the video so that they can encourage their cleaners to go through that process too.
Yeah. I can send those to you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good questions. Love it.
Yeah. A couple things people have too is about, do you suggest guests bring their own products and clean when they arrive? I'm not sure who wants to do that on vacation, but there probably will be some that just get paranoid about it.
Yeah, there will be some that are paranoid and there will be some that will do that, and that's totally okay. However, I see my role as a property manager to take care of the asset and to make sure I'm providing a property that people can be comfortable in and enjoy. So I'm going to do everything on my end to work with my cleaners to ensure that the property is ready. Some people always clean, and I can't do anything about that, and that's okay. If they choose to, that's their choice.
All right. I'm going to answer it but it talks about the liability if someone becomes sick in the house, right? So it's similar to what our state association attorneys have said about showings, real estate showings right now. It's almost going to be impossible to track it back to something in that house from a liability standpoint. The owner may say, I got sick in the house, but to say whether they got sick at the house or at that restaurant or wherever else they may have stopped along that journey to that house, same with the showing, to tie it back to exactly where you got sick would be difficult. So there really isn't, from a liability standpoint, our state association attorneys, I would follow the same guys you said at showings. You're not going to be able to track it back to that one instance for the most part.
Yeah, and I would add to that, that's why telling your story is so important, because then you'd be talking about the disinfectants you're using and how they're on the EPA list. You'd be talking about all of these things because, and how I'm doing everything in my power to provide a safe and COVID-19 free place for you to stay. And if I'm doing all my due diligence to do that, then just as the attorney has said here, that only adds weight to, I've done everything I can to help you and to protect you from this.
Sound like about cleaners? What would the video sound like? What kind of disclaimer would you put on it? And what kind of thing more about how some of those advertising videos, Facebook videos, would you be talking about?
So is the question with reference to telling your story videos?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
So it's more of like a video blog as opposed to an advertisement. It's, hey, I'm here at the beach today and it's a great day. They're, looking forward to having you come out. And then next week I go, hey, this is Betty Sue. She's a cleaner that takes care of this particular property. She's just received her new shipment from the janitorial supply company that's on the EPA list that kills COVID 2019. Hey, Betsy, everybody waves, and, those types of things. That's how I see that. Although I suppose if you felt that a disclaimer or something on the tail end of the video was prudent, you certainly could. But that's why I say if you look at Twitty and the Outer Banks, they have a full page of different bulletins they've done throughout the week. They do a weekly video. They do all sorts of things of that nature. They even interviewed some of their housekeeping staff, their housekeeping manager, to talk about the products they were using. And so it just helps solidify and bolster the confidence of your guests and owners that you're doing everything you can to facilitate taking care of their asset that they've entrusted you with.
Sorry, Ryan lost his internet again, so I'm taking over for the moment. That was a great answer to that question. And then it looks like Ryan has a question about showing a property, and I'm not seeing any newer questions. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat. And Durk, is there anything else you'd like to elaborate on?
So if you're using a third-party vendor to launder your sheets, reach out to them to see what solutions they have for you. That way, again, this is about building alliances and about talking as a business owner to a business owner. That way you're able to find the best path and best business solution for you and your particular circumstances. And I would even include that with your cleaning professional. Sit down with them over a digital meeting. I almost said meet with them at a coffee shop or something. Look at me. How terrible is that? I think I'm ready to have some social closeness as opposed to social distancing. But anyway, being able to meet with them and talk about the different expectations that are going on, because really they own your brand. The cleaning professionals own your brand. And so how you articulate your brand standard to them, how they do this is really, really critical, because they clean the house and they walk out and in walk the guests. And that's why I say they own the brand. So making sure that they understand that ramification and that they're able to do the work in an efficient and effective manner is imperative.
Thank you. One of the questions I'm not sure if we fully touched on is, do you have any resources you can recommend for our smaller mom and pops to refer to for training and for all the information they need to know?
So there are two places, well, three. So you have the right now VRMA, Vacation Rental Managers Association, so vrma.org. They have a COVID 2019 webpage that you can go to with a whole list of resources there. VRHP is a part of VRMA, and so VRHP provides the training and the back of the house information to VRMA. So those are the two places that I would suggest you go to. VRHP also has a YouTube channel. VRHP also has a Vimeo channel. So there's all sorts of things there for you to look at, and to interviews and tips and tricks, and there's even some product testing on those sites for you to take a look at.
Thank you.
And then as a member of VRHP, you do have access to all the webinars that we do, and those are recorded. I think we're up to 2.5 years worth. So let's see, 24, 48, 50, 55 webinars that are there for them to see and talk about from different products and different topics.
That's fantastic. We had a question about putting soft goods in the dryer, if that would help. I know you touched on soft goods a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so soft goods would work if you could have them, if they can handle the sanitize setting. And so you want to make sure that you throw them in there and you know, with a dryer sheet to manage the static and to add a nice fresh scent to it, and then hit that sanitize button. But again, remember, we want to make sure that we're allocating the correct amount of time for all of those products or all those items to go through that sanitize setting and then be put back out. Now remember, if I put throw pillows through the dryer, I need to sanitize the surface, the soft surface that those throw pillows are going back on. So if I take them off the couch and I put them in the dryer, then I need to make sure that I'm sanitizing the couch in some way, shape, or form by spraying it with a product that evaporates, that I don't have to wipe down, and that is color safe and all those things that go with that, and then put the pillows back on there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Good questions.
Do we have any other questions? I did see one come through, but I think that might be more of a Ryan question about a questionnaire for people renting based on symptoms they might be having or doing any sort of tests. I think that might be more of a Ryan question.
Yeah, that's a Ryan question. That's I won't touch that one. Yeah.
That's fair. I will have Ryan follow up on that with that person. Does anyone else have any questions specifically for Durk? And yes, this recording will be sent out to everyone who registered after. If you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We still have a couple more minutes with Durk, and I know he's provided a lot of great information.
So as you think about your questions, I would encourage each of you to look at to think about this. At some point in time, we're going to go back to normal, whatever normal is defined as. And so how are you going to reopen your business? I would encourage you to look at the way your business, some of the new things we've learned about doing business, some of this remote work that now we've figured out how to do. And so I would encourage you to plan for when you're going to reopen, and then look at how you're going to operate and run your business differently as we've had to work remotely. I mean, cleaning a property has to happen inside the property. Plunging a toilet has to happen inside the property. There's nothing we can do about that. However, a lot of the office support, I mean, I could be in Hawaii doing some of that stuff for you. I don't have to be in an office somewhere. And so make plans now to reopen, make plans now to get ready, and make plans now of how can I do my business more effectively and differently in the past than I have done in the past. We spend so much time as a business owner myself, I spend so much time doing the business that I don't spend enough time working on the business. And so we want to make sure that we're spending time working on the business to help the business continue to go forward.
Dirk, I just had a question come through to me directly, which I think is great, especially being where we are, is pools, spas, beach gear that might be left at the property for renters to use. Any suggestions for those type of items?
So when you say pools, are you talking inflatable pool or are you talking an actual in-ground pool?
It's probably, being the Cape, more of an in-ground pool would be my
Okay.
guess.
And when you say spa, are you referring to a hot tub that sits outside or a jetted tub that sits inside?
We'll go with hot tub outside.
All right. So for the pools and hot tubs, then I would encourage you and advocate that everybody have a CPO, a certified pool operator that understands the chemistry. I'm an opinion that hot tubs need to be checked every day for chemistry because they are truly a cesspool and petri dish of bacteria. It's at 104 degrees and there's all sorts of stuff in there, and that is just microbes heaven. And so we want to make sure that we are providing the right chemistry inside the water to keep those at a minimum. There's enough free chlorine or bromine in the water in the hot tubs. And then same thing is true with the pools. Make sure that the chemicals are balanced and that everything is that way. As far as the beach toys go, I've worked with some companies who want no beach toys left, and then I've worked for some that do want some beach toys left. And so if you're going to leave them, then the same product you're going to sanitize the couches with that pressurized sprayer, then I would just spray down all the beach toys and put them back in as best I can to have that ready for them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will send out the information about the certification that you mentioned earlier. Someone asked about that again.
Okay, great.
And then just one quick question was, is a pillow, can that be cleaned with one of the soft cleaners that you mentioned?
So in other words, I take the pillowcase off, I take the pillow protector off, and then I have the pillow. And so they're asking me if they could spray the pillow and then put the pillow protector back on. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. Or the pillow could also go in the dryer on the sanitized setting.
Fantastic. So I think that is everything unless there's any other questions. And then we will be sending out a recap of this. I will get with Dirk to get some of those resources you guys specifically asked about. And if you think of anything else, feel free to email me at education@cciaor.com. And we will send out a recap over the next couple of days. Thank you so much, everyone. A special thank you to Dirk and to Verma.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Have a great summer.
Thank you.